Hey, everybody, welcome. This is another On the Journey interview. And here today I have Jeff. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I just kind of want to go ahead and jump right in. What made you want to start doing carnivore?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have struggled with my weight for probably about half of my life. And I never was obese, but I always carried more weight than I really wanted to. And I didn't feel very good about myself, and I didn't feel very confident. And so weight loss was definitely my number one driver in my choice to go carnivore or everything else I tried before.
What was like that moment or event that happened that said, okay, I've tried other things, but I'm going to try this?
Well, I think my best result up until going carnivore had been keto, and I had been keto for a good long time successfully. I was working a very active job, and so when I went keto, the weight just melted right off. But when I switched jobs, I found that not only was I not losing weight anymore, I actually started putting it back on. And to be fair, I wasn't doing a really good form of keto. I was being a dirty keto guy that had a lot of artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. And so after I fell off the wagon of keto, over about the next year, I put on probably about 45 or 50 pounds. And I hit the highest weight that I'd ever been, which was 256 pounds. And I'm a tall guy, but there is no height where you should be okay with being that big. And so I said, I've got to do something else. And first, I actually tried intermittent fasting because that sounded far more reasonable to me than anything else. And intermittent fasting helps some, but I hit a wall where I just couldn't break through. I lost about 20 pounds and I couldn't get any further towards my goal. And so I remember sitting at July 4th at the kitchen table with some of our family while we were visiting and looking at the meal that we were eating, which was fantastic, but I realized I've got to make a change. And I had been hearing the carnivore story preached on YouTube through these different Dr. Sean Baker and Dr. Ken Berry, and I just said, this is it. I've got to give it a shot, and I have to give it a try and see if it works for me.
Which for you do you think, who was the biggest influence to start carnivore? Like, we have Sean Baker, we've got Dr. Barry, Michaela Peterson, these kinds of people. Who do you think that was your biggest? You watched what they had to offer, read it, and then decided, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think, to some extent, it was just the cumulative, lots of different voices, right? But, I had heard different people talk about it, and I always thought they're crazy. They're crazy. These people are crazy. But when you have a doctor that just says something different, and so I actually, while I was, visiting friends and family during the 4th of July kind of time off, I actually had some time to myself, and I downloaded a free copy of Dr. Baker's book, and I started reading, and I thought, this guy doesn't sound crazy. What his ideas still sounded crazy, but he sounded very rational. And so I started pulling things up on YouTube, and I remember Dr. Barry from my keto days. And he always said things that were just so logical, and he has a way of explaining things. And when he had switched to carnivore 2 in that time gap between when I fell off keto and when I started carnivore, I said, I got to give it a shot. These guys just make a lot of sense.
Funny enough, my brother is who initially kind of started me towards this than Michaela Peterson. But he told me the other day, he's like, when I first heard about this, I think he saw it with Sean Baker and then Michaela Peterson. He's like, I thought they were crackpots. Like, he's like, I thought he was off his rocker. And he's
Yeah.
like, then this is also the brother that decided to convince me to eat potatoes, only white potatoes, for months. He tried it and then he was like, nah. It sounds, my brother's never been obese. I think he lost 40 pounds doing carnivore. But it standing on the outside, when you're looking from the lens of like a standard American diet, it does seem crazy. But man, limiting what I eat has actually unchained me in a way I could never have ever thought, because food and having to think about food it's so burdensome. And doing carnivore, God, it just takes that out and off the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Things like that.
Okay. Well, I'm a 45-year-old guy. I am married and I have 3 kids. My kids range from, my oldest is my daughter, who is a sophomore in college. And I have 2 sons that are a junior and a freshman in high school. And I live in Alabama, where I am a software guy. I work for a software company. I do wear a lot of different hats because we're a small company. And since going carnivore, I really love telling my story. So that's become a big part of my hobby and my passion altogether, and creating videos and that kind of thing.
Definitely. All right. So you started into carnivore. How did you start? Did you go from one day, like a standard American diet, next day carnivore? Did you do keto for a little bit, or just like me, rip the Band-Aid off and jumped head first?
Yeah, it would be the rip the Band-Aid off. So, July 4th, I sat down and ate, a big old steak, but also baked potato and all the other stuff that was on the plate. And the next day I was back at home and went to the grocery store and bought all the meat and eggs and cheese and everything that I had heard you can eat on carnivore. And that was it. Both feet, jump right in. And that is not necessarily the way I'd recommend for everyone to start. But I think because I had done keto in the past, I kind of knew what to expect. And really, honestly, I think it depends a little bit on your personality. If you're, I've found I have an abstainer kind of mentality or personality, where I do better if I can go clean cut, just totally abstain from something. That is easier for me than doing things gradually. And
I agree.
So
I think it's easier on the body if you do keto for a few weeks and then carnivore. However, at the same time, I have not done well with moderation, because I've done keto as well. Moderation has never been my thing. I found going feet first in, head first, whatever, was the best option for me, because I just had to set aside that stuff. So I really do think it's a personal choice on what you're willing to tolerate. What was the most difficult thing about your first 30 days of carnivore?
The worst thing for me was definitely the crazy amount of diarrhea. When I first got started, I knew that, from doing keto, that I would have headaches as I got through the sugar addiction. I knew I would have to transition and might be a little bit tired or lethargic at points, but I had no way to anticipate how many trips to the bathroom and how urgent they would be. And that probably took about 3 weeks for me to get through before I knew I was good and would be able to keep going.
I sympathize. I think every person who jumps 2 feet in experiences that. I mean, it's one of those that if you feel like you need to go, just start heading to the bathroom. Don't even wait.
Yeah. One of the
Um,
one of the most helpful comments that somebody told me was, if you feel like you have to fart, you don't. Just run for it. Just run for it, because there's no gas on the carnivore diet.
no,
So
my
yeah.
brother, my brother always told me, he's like, don't trust a fart. I was like, what? He's like, don't ask how I know this. Just don't do it. Now,
Yeah.
do you consider yourself strict carnivore, more like the lion diet, literally ruminant meat, salt, water, or are you kind of on the more dirty side of carnivore where you use spices, drink coffee or tea, those kinds of things?
Yeah, I am definitely more on the dirtier side. I have experimented with doing stricter. For the month of October, I went triple B&E, and that was good for me. And I enjoyed it in a short time frame, but I can't see myself staying that pure all the time. And so I'm pretty open on my channel about sharing the fact that sometimes I deviate, not I feel good about it or I intend to, but sometimes I have a little bit of vegetables here or there. I definitely do like salt and pepper. I don't drink coffee because I gave that up and I don't miss it. And I've been working on trying to reduce the amount of cheese that I eat. I have always had cheese except for the month of October. I miss cheese. And so I've added it back in, but I'm trying to hold back and not go crazy on it, because it definitely impacts how much weight I either hold on to or can lose.
Funny enough, Scott and I are doing 2 weeks without cheese, well, actually, no dairy except butter. Uh, I don't really miss it after a couple of days. I don't even think about it. Poor
Mhm.
Scott, he is the cheese monster. Granted, he has 2 pounds of fat left to lose, something like that. It's ridiculous. He has been missing it. However, I think the biggest benefit for him is he used to snack all day long with cheese. He'd eat beef jerky. He wouldn't eat too much during his meals. And
Right.
now I do OMAD, so one meal a day most times. Yesterday, he accidentally did OMAD because he forgot to eat. He normally doesn't eat an entire ribeye. He ate that sucker gone. So I
Yeah.
find that since he's given up the dairy, he's actually eating more meat, which is a good thing, especially for men, having the extra protein and not just
Right.
getting just the calories from the fat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what kind of health benefits have you gotten? Just a few, because I know a lot of people have tons of them, but some of the major ones for you.
Sure. Yeah. So the couple that really stand out to me, the first one is I dealt with acid reflux, heartburn
Mm.
for over 20 years. And I would take medications like Nexium and Cimetidine and Omeprazole, and I would take those
The
daily, and
pharmacy.
I would still I would still get heartburn, and I'd be popping Tums after taking the
Mhm.
medication. And I started on carnivore, and within a month, I wasn't having heartburn, and I got rid of the medication, and I've never had it since, except the times that I deviate. That one will come back and get me really fast. So that's a
Yeah.
great reason not to deviate, right? And
Yes.
then
Yes.
the other one that really stands out is my snoring. My snoring had gotten worse and worse over the years, and it got to the point where I got a CPAP, and I would still wake my wife up snoring so loud through the full mask CPAP. And I even remember sometimes I would be asleep in the bedroom with the door shut. I worked an off schedule kind of job. And so people would be in our living room in another room with a movie playing, and would stop the movie to come in there and tell me to roll over or something because I was snoring so loud with the CPAP. It was awful. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
today I don't snore at all, which is fantastic. And I don't have to wear this stupid mask.
It's amazing. Scott was like that. This is during COVID. They gave them, they're called bongos. I don't know if you've heard of them. So it's a different
Mm-mm.
option than CPAPs because the whole, COVID stuff. Anyways, they go in the nose and oh man, he could hardly wear them and he still snored. And I remember every night poking him, roll over.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he sucked the paint off the wall. He sounded like a 500-pound man snoring. It was terrible. His snoring is also gone. Thank God. What are your health goals for this? Like, do you have anything specific other than your weight that you want to achieve, or maybe you've already met it already?
Yeah, really, just recently, a commenter on my YouTube videos actually asked me, has carnivore cured all your health problems? And, my initial gut reaction, I was replying to the comment like, of course not. But then I started thinking about it, and I've had so many different things that I didn't realize were curable simply get better. And really, the only things that I could ask for better health wise, lose a few more pounds, about 10 to 15 more pounds. And then besides that, my vision has gotten worse over the past couple of years, and my hearing. And those two things, I don't really count on my diet to really fix those. And so the truth is, like, carnivore really has fixed everything I could ask for and more with my health. And interestingly enough, when I said that in one of my videos, I've had a lot of people actually tell me that after doing carnivore for a really long time, they've found that their vision has gotten better, and they don't know that it's directly due to carnivore. But I mean, I'm talking about dozens and dozens of people that have told me, a year and a half, 2.5, 3 years after doing carnivore, they're putting off their glasses. They're taking off their glasses and realizing they don't need them anymore. So I have a little bit of hope on that one too.
I would love that. I've heard some other people mention it as well, because it really does suck having to constantly drag them around.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and I always had perfect vision until about 3 years ago. I started a job where I'm on the computer all the time, and then I do YouTube stuff. And you know what it's like. You're watching videos and you're editing videos in your off time. And so, all that screen time is really killing my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, these glasses that I have on, I really like them because they're the blue blocking. I was getting really bad migraines because same thing. I was sitting at the computer for work, sitting at the computer doing YouTube. And if you haven't, I would suggest the blue blocking. They work so much better. I actually really like. I wear them. My other glasses, I like the blue better in them, but these I find I'm wearing a lot more than my other ones because of that. Because I was getting migraines even doing carnivore from just sitting at the computer so much.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to do that on my next pair.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth it. And it's just a very slight tint versus just 100% clear. There's just a very slight tint you won't even really recognize. What does your support system look like for carnivore? Does your wife do it? Do your kids, anybody else in your family?
Yeah, good question. So I am happy to be able to say that, when I started, I was the lone wolf. And gradually, my middle child, my older son, who just turned 17, is a little more health conscious, has joined the gym, got a gym membership, and has been working out more. And he started trending towards carnivore. He hasn't declared that he's carnivore, but he has a lot of carnivore meals. And so that was great. And then just at the beginning of the year, my wife decided that she wanted to go low carb and start trying to improve her health. And so we got a family gym membership, and we're all trying to improve. So that's a great encouragement, because it can be a lonely journey.
Yeah, and even if they're not necessarily doing carnivore, having people around you trying to improve their health and encouraging you on your journey, I think that's the big thing. It's hard when you have people around naysaying or trying to push you off when you're trying to do better. So
Right.
that's excellent. Poor Scott always does every diet that I ever do.
He
I
gets
don't
roped
force
into
him.
it.
He willingly
Yeah.
does it. Well, maybe. So your middle child, do you think that you foresee in the next few months that he's going to come around to doing full carnivore though?
Well, the challenge when you're a kid is you don't control everything, right? So he goes to school and there's school lunches and he has to pick the best options that he has, or he goes to a youth event or a school function and he has to pick from whatever they're serving. It seems like we're
Got it.
frozen. Oh, I'm sorry, you
Are we
froze,
clear?
so I thought I was
think
probably frozen.
give it 30 seconds. It says it's unstable again.
I'll finish that question if you feel like.
Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay. And then this summer, he does this special thing. It's kind of like marching band on steroids. It's called Drum and Bugle Corps, and it's a really big deal. But he leaves home and he goes with this group for 50 days. And so he is on their meal plan that whole time. And so, he'll just make the best choices he can with the options that he's given. But this is a kid who he's nearly as tall as I am, and he's 140 pounds. Really, he's trying to put on weight. He's super active. So, I'm not concerned about him not being carnivore per se, but he's definitely thinking that direction.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for any other parents that not trying to force the children to do carnivore, but any advice for helping them make better choices? Even if it's not necessarily carnivore, but maybe less sugar or less processed stuff. Do you have anything like with your kids that you've tried?
Yeah, I will be the first to say that I totally get that it is tough, especially when we've been the ones who've trained them to eat, a variety of foods and eat some of everything. And you need your vegetables and you need a balanced diet. To suddenly change your story and start saying, no, we're not going for balance anymore, and put down the breads and the pasta and all that. I would say the best thing that you can do is work by example and by having a lot of options that are good choices around all the time. And as much as you can, just forget to buy the Doritos and the Twinkies. And, not that you want to go strict and not ever have any of those in the house all of a sudden, but if you run out of them for a few days and you don't make an emergency run to the store, guess what? They're going to find something else to eat that's better, right?
That's a good option, because then you can forget next time for a little bit longer and longer, and then eventually it's just not really missed because it's not been there. That's actually some great advice. What do you do for social gatherings? If you go somewhere, how do you deal with the pressures, the internal, external pressures about that?
Well, I would say that normally I try to think ahead if I can, and I'm okay with eating ahead of time and then just hanging out when we're there, if at all possible. But, you do get in some challenging situations. This past weekend, we actually went to visit some good family friends, and we were at their home and they ordered in pizza. Like, what am I going to do? Be the guy that
Eat all the
says,
pepperoni off of it.
yeah, be the guy that says, yeah, I need a whole pizza worth of pepperoni,
And the
and I'm not
pepperoni and the
touching the
cheese, you
rest.
guys can have the bread.
But but it's a tough balance, right? So
Mm,
I try to make the best decisions that I can in the moment, and I'm not perfect with that. But if at all possible, most of the time it's just one meal. I'm totally fine with eating ahead of time, or if I didn't have warning or I wasn't hungry ahead of time, just not eating. Or I usually don't like to eat in front of people in a really weird way, like burgers without the buns and stuff like that, unless it's a situation where I can control it and not feel like the weirdo. But in front of my family, that's totally fine.
got it. Um, I started off that way of not wanting to be the weirdo, but then at one point I decided, it's no longer weird for me, and I don't care if they think it's weird. But
Yeah.
it takes time, because in the beginning I was quite shy about it and didn't want to ask for things like no bun, or I'll take the bun off. But honestly, I feel like it's for me now, it's a better option just to have them do it, so I don't even have to have the choice if I'm gonna eat it
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And I think restaurants are getting better at being able to serve you in a way that looks fine. And you don't have to sit there and have a 5-minute conversation with the person that you're ordering with. They kind of
Mhm.
know what to do. If you just
I
say,
think it's
hey,
more common,
yeah.
people not asking for breads and things like that. So yeah.
Hmm.
All right. What would be your number one piece of advice for new carnivores?
Um, for new carnivores, I would say you've got to pick a goal that you think's attainable, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever you think's attainable, and really commit to it. And understand that you're going to have some rough days in there, but you're going to have a lot of really good days too. And one of the things I would say, if you haven't done it yet, take pictures. Take
Mm,
pictures. Even though you don't feel good about how you look now, you want to be able to look back and see the progress. Honestly, I never really took a lot of pictures of myself, and I would be the one taking pictures of the rest of my family. And it's kind of disappointing that I don't have more to look back on. But I do have videos on YouTube, and you can go back and look at the progress that you've made, and that gives you the motivation to stick with it, because you don't want to be that guy or that girl that was 30, 50, 100 pounds bigger. You don't want to go back there.
mm-mm. I think that's a good idea. Taking the pictures, but I think also measurements. Um, I 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like 2 weeks ago, I realized with my measurements, I've lost as many inches around myself as I am tall. And I
Wow,
realized that was just, wow, I've lost as many inches as my own height.
that's
So I think
amazing.
yeah, I think, an awesome thing to suggest.
Hmm.
All
And
right,
that's
Jeff,
one
it
that
has
I
been,
didn't do, so I wish I would have.
ah, well, you can start now too, because if you're trying to gain muscle, it is honestly more than weight, just because you're so close to your goal weight.
Hmm.
It's a better indicator of muscle mass versus fat. They also
Right.
have like the fat calipers. They're quite simple to use, and it'll tell you your body fat percentage, because I mean you are very tall and body
Hmm.
frames are slightly different in how much muscle we have and don't have. So anyways, it has been amazing talking to you, Jeff. What is the best way people can find you?
Well, the at Everyday Carnivore handle is the best way to find me. I put all my best content on YouTube. I do have a TikTok and Instagram where I basically throw up the YouTube shorts that I make on YouTube. Maybe sometimes I give it a little different music or do something a little crazier on there, but all my best content is really on YouTube. And thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I really enjoy talking to other carnivores and getting to share ideas and share experiences.
Agreed. Thank you so much. Bye.